So I watched the 6th episode of And Just Like That season 2 and it felt extremely transitional. The plot oscillated somewhere between the past and the future. The amount of callbacks to the original show was almost uncomfortable, but then again, the episode set a bunch of characters on a new trajectory that should be interesting to watch unfold in the upcoming episodes. So let's not waste any time and get into the video. Have you ever wondered what the characters of And Just Like That are up to on a lazy Sunday morning? Well, Carrie does a Zoom promo of her book, so I was wrong. She does promote her book. My bad. Miranda thinks she overslept for class. Naya is working on her divorce papers. The Goldenblads and Anthony are having a lovely breakfast. Charlotte channels her inner almond mom with the TikTok famous Lululemon Align jacket. And the Wexleys read newspaper in bed while Lisa stumbles upon Rock's Ralph Lauren ad. This scene led me to 3 thoughts. Number 1, why is the ad on the newspaper and not Instagram? It's 2023, baby. Number 2, the continuity of random storylines between the episodes in this show never fails to amaze me. And number 3, why do we suddenly spend so much time with the families of Lisa and Charlotte, yet the original show rarely mentioned anything about the families of origin of all the ladies? Could some people have complained about the lack of reference to the girls' families back then, and now the writers are trying to correct it? But back to the Goldenblatt family breakfast. Lily proudly announces she is ready to lose her virginity. So cringe. But the fact she is so open about it only shows Charlotte's transformation. She went from being a 30-year-old woman who couldn't even get naked in the ladies-only sauna to a mother who creates a safe space for her kids to discuss sex openly. I wholeheartedly applaud this change. But why do Lily and Rock still share a bedroom? We know that this apartment is a classic 6 on Upper East Side, once owned by the McDougal family. Surely there must be a spare bedroom, a home office Harry no longer needs? Or do they have maids living with them? And speaking about the McDougal family, Charlotte brings up Trey during the dinner with Miranda, Naya, and Carrie. Apparently, he didn't want to keep up in touch after their divorce. Frankly, I don't believe that. Or rather, I don't think it was that simple. I guess it was just too painful for him. She moved on pretty quickly. To this day, she lives in his family estate. Gosh, I can just imagine Benny constantly nagging him about it, for a good reason. A couple of days later, we catch up with Charlotte in kitchen. Of course, we see her so often cooking, it's mad to me that the writers didn't make her a food Instagram influencer. Can you imagine her doing SponCon for hot fellas, which would include a bunch of Instagram lives with Anthony, where he would tell her audience about the benefits of sourdough bread. I'm so upset it didn't happen. But what is about to happen is Lily and her boyfriend Blake. If only they didn't forget about the protection. Apparently, Lily has no one else to ask for help but her mom. Seriously, she doesn't have any friends? I know, she should call Brady, who is already established in the show as a horn dog. That would make so much more sense, right? But because rarely anything makes sense in this show, Charlotte goes on a condom scavenger hunt during the snowstorm.
My daughter needs condoms!
Charlotte isn't the only one who wades through snowdrifts as LTW tries to get to MoMA for her documentary screening. Now, for the second time in this season, Lisa is the one who has to walk in either a very uncomfortable outfit or through a literal blizzard because there is something wrong with her car service. The Wexleys are wealthy people. Shouldn't they have their own driver? Mr. Big is dead. I am sure that his driver, Raul, is on a lookout for a new job. Hire him. Anyway, this shot is very much giving Balenciaga Winter 2022 runway show. Lisa looks so fierce. On one side, perfection. The other side, perfection. But of course, Carrie is the one who wins in a competition for the most over-the-top outfit, as she wears this enormous Moncler Winter 2019 coat. Carrie, as always, gets the majority of screen time, despite her storyline being the plainest of them all. However, many of her scenes were callbacks to the original show. The image of Carrie in the Apple store made me instantly think about the iconic My Mother Bored Myself episode, when Seema proposed to Carrie that they spend summer in the Hamptons together. It naturally evoked the Hamptons episode, but also the scene when Charlotte gives Carrie her engagement ring, which was written to sound like the wedding vows. I'm surprised Carrie didn't mention to Seema that she was supposed to go to the Hamptons with Mr. Big the night he died. And also, Carrie already owns a house in the Hamptons, so why rent another one? Because the writers forgot about it. When Carrie revealed that Steve told her he wouldn't take his wedding ring off in season 1, it made me think about the first film and the scene where Miranda tells Carrie what Big told her months ago. And of course, let's not forget about the email to Aidan. But besides that, Carrie's plotline was very dull, and so I suggest we skip it altogether. And instead, I'd like us today to take a closer look at how Carrie's character has changed since Sex and the City. There is a massive online discourse about how Miranda is unrecognizable from her past selves, and don't you worry, we will get to Miranda. However, I don't see many people talk about how Carrie has lost her wit and is very accepting and totally non-judgmental. Unlike the old Carrie, we know the old Carrie was often a horrible friend to all the girls. Not always, though there were many times when she was there for them. However, think about the scene when she stood up Miranda for Big, or when Charlotte announced she and Harry are getting engaged and all Carrie wanted to talk about was her own breakup. There were many scenes when Carrie was straight up embarrassed by Samantha's dirty talk. We could go on and on about this for hours, bringing even more examples. There is enough evidence. So it's astonishing that now Carrie is nothing but supportive of her friends, no matter what. Charlotte has a weird quest to get the Chanel dress back. Carrie is there for her. Miranda is hunting for a second-hand mattress. Carrie gladly helps her. Suddenly, Carrie listens to her friends and their problems without making it all about herself. She indeed lied about having COVID, but she did it so that she would no longer burden Charlotte and Miranda with her grief, so pretty selfless, I'd say. But what's the most striking for me is how in And Just Like That, Carrie is no longer judgmental of anyone's sexuality. Charlotte openly talks about her love for buttermilk. Sorry for a silly euphemism. Carrie shows no signs of repulsion. Miranda puts a strap on. Carrie is absolutely fine with it. Che and Lyle tell in granular details about their polyamorous past. Carrie, is slightly uncomfortable with that, but then she goes home and moves on with her life. She's not even gossiping on the phone with Charlotte about what she just learned. And look, from the cultural perspective, I totally understand why this particular change needed to be implemented, as many of old Carrie's opinions didn't age well. But from the plot point of view, it makes no sense whatsoever. This is too big of a change to be left unexplained, and I'm not buying the idea that Carrie has simply matured, that now she is in her 50s and she knows better. No, people don't change that much unless they are in therapy, and actually slightly narcissistic people like Carrie don't change almost at all unless it benefits them. So why we didn't get a storyline about Carrie getting cancelled over an old interview when she said something of this flavor, or she could get cancelled over some of her old columns which are now considered problematic. That would lead to a lot of bad press surrounding her, leading her book sales down. And then this would make Carrie understand she no longer should say anything mildly controversial, as it can jeopardize her career. Or maybe she would actually become more empathetic of whoever she offended in her interview or column. I don't know, it's just a general idea. But yeah, for me that would be a good enough explanation for why Carrie suddenly is so politically correct. Alrighty, let's move on to Miranda, Che, and Steve because there is a lot to unpack. So I've noticed that Miranda and Che's relationship was pretty schematic in the last couple of episodes. We usually caught up with them being tender with each other, happy that they saw each other again, etc. Then for the most of the episode, we followed them separately. Miranda did her things and Che worked on their TV pilot. Each episode ended with them having a massive fight one would think would lead to a breakup, but alas, we were back to square one until this episode. It all starts when Che shares that they're going through a somewhat depressive episode now that they're unemployed and their TV show is cancelled. So, Miranda's partner is going through an emotional turnover and she chooses to yell at them. Miranda is at her absolute worst in this episode. She is selfish and neurotic. She makes almost every conversation about her. Naya talks about her no-fault divorce. Miranda is like, it must be nice. My divorce is all my fault. And actually, a similar exchange happens during the dinner scene. Ugh. What has happened to her? Miranda is a mess on purpose. But why? Are we watching a psychological drama about a woman who had a lovely family, great friends, and a thriving career, and one day she just lost her goddamn mind? I don't get it. What is this? Earlier in the episode, Carrie invited Che to be her emotional support. At the convention, she has a speech. This pairing, again, made no sense. Brady should be helping Lily with her problem, and Charlotte should be helping Carrie. It is clear that the writers try to create situations in which different sets of characters can interact, and I applaud that, but they could turn to the voiceovers that will tie everyone together. Please. Anyway, Che goes to that convention with Carrie and they're sweet and supportive of her. Che, without Miranda, is a totally different person. A better person. Carrie reads an excerpt from her book and wouldn't you know it, it turns out that her writing moves mountains. Che has an epiphany that they have to break up with Miranda and it happens in a very anticlimactic way. Like, I understand that 2 big fights in one episode might be too much for Miranda, but the way this breakup was executed was so underdeveloped. Miranda ended her marriage with Steve for Che, and she's okay with them breaking up? Mad. Miranda also confronts Steve in this episode. She asks him when he will move out, as this is something he suggested during the family therapy scene a couple of episodes ago. But since now it's winter, I guess this scene took place 5-6 months ago, and they never talked about it during this time. How come Miranda never asked Steve how apartment search is going? I don't get it. But then Steve says something that made me furious. He tells Miranda that she never wanted him and she never wanted Brady, which mirrors this new narrative constantly pushed by the writers that Miranda hated motherhood and domesticity. We can argue whether Steve actually meant it or not. I think people tend to say things they don't really mean when they are this upset. It is true that Miranda considered an abortion, but only for a couple of days, and then she decided to keep the baby and became a loving mother. I'll try to find an interview with Michael Patrick King when he said that Miranda didn't want to get married because, get this, her wedding was pretty casual.
She did get married, against her will almost.
Yeah, that's
People
right.
forget that she got married in a park, low key.
I'm sorry, but it only means that Miranda and Steve weren't traditional and did things their way. Just because Miranda didn't wear a white wedding gown, it doesn't mean she didn't want to become Steve's wife. Justice for Steve, always, but also justice for Miranda and Steve's love. I really want to love And Just Like That so badly, but the writing choices continue to baffle me. As I mentioned in my previous videos, I am obsessed with the Writers Room podcast for all the wrong reasons, and listening to it every week makes it evident to me that the writers of And Just Like That like what they have created. They think that the jokes are funny, they don't understand the criticism around Che's character, they absolutely don't feel that the storylines are underdeveloped. So yeah, that was another 4 pigeon purses episode. Let me know your ranking on a scale of 1 to 10 pigeon purses, of course. I am excited about the adventures of single Miranda and single Naya, and I'm curious if the writers will keep Che and Steve in the show. And of course, I can't wait for Aidan to finally show up in the next episode. Thank you so much for watching, commenting, and subscribing. It really means a lot to me. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you next Sunday. Bye.